Yahoo! Welcome, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love, to Astro Fenixx, flying into the moment yet again and radiating love as always. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the new moon in Libra that is going to be occurring today. It's going to be apexing around 2:30 in the afternoon. That's Eastern Standard Time at 5 degrees of Libra. New moons, new beginnings. You can't see the moon. It's dark. So it's interesting. I like to think of these new moons as obviously they are a beginning point, but they're also the beginning of cycles and the end of cycles. But with new moons, it's like you're planting a seed. And I've mentioned this metaphor multiple times, how when you plant a seed in the ground or in the dirt, it seems like it seems like light doesn't reach that seed, but the seed still knows to sprout up and to grow towards the sun. But that seed still is in darkness. So right now we are all being planted in some type of soil or some type of darkness so we can grow into something more beautiful. And with this new moon, of course, being in Libra, this has to do with, our relationships, our connections, this cardinal air energy. So how we actually utilize our voice, how we utilize our words and take action upon them. So this is going to be a new moon that you're definitely going to be feeling. We have to remind ourselves that now we have entered into the upper half of the zodiac, whereas the first 6 signs is more predominantly focused on self-development. The last 6 signs are more so this development of the collective and how we begin to relate to the world around us. So of course, we get a new moon in Libra every single year, and we haven't had an upper zodiac new moon since last year. And last year when we got this energy, the ruler of Libra, Venus, was actually retrograde in Scorpio. Now Venus is actually here in its home sign of Libra, and it's going to be ahead of this new moon as far as the degrees go. But it kind of gives you an idea that this new moon is going to be a rather pure new moon because Venus is going to be in its home sign along with this new moon. So as the moon comes off the sun and begins to go back towards being full, it's actually going to cross over Venus in Libra, which is going to be pretty awesome. Actually, we'll look at that here in a bit. The other thing about this new moon in Libra is that it's actually making an opposition over to Chiron and Aries. And Chiron and Aries is talking about, these wounds when it comes to the self and expressing our character and who we are. And about this whole idea of Aries and Libra, yeah, they're opposite signs, but they're two sides of the same coin. So right now we are kind of going through this area where when it comes to expressing who we are and our character and even our egos, we are being checked and challenged because now it's like people more so are starting to show their true colors, but then the reactions that they get from people, they can warrant different things. It depends upon how you are expressing yourself. It depends a lot on how much courage you have to continue to express yourself despite any type of oppositions or any type of challenges that you have. But Chiron is going to be at 3 degrees of Aries. This new moon is going to be at 5 degrees. So if you look at the numerology of this, Chiron being at 3 degrees, 3, that energy, that vibration is ruled by the Jupiterian energy, Sagittarius energy, where Jupiter happens to be right now moving forward. So there's definitely this area when it comes to that where we are wanting to explore more of who we are, but we may have a little bit of some apprehensiveness when it comes to this. Chiron is retrograde, and we have to look at the new moon being at 5 degrees. 5, which in numerology is this mercurial energy. It is the magi, the magician. It is the energy of Gemini. And Mercury also is in Libra. So there's definitely going to be a lot of energy and potent energy along with this Libra-like quality. And before I even went live on this, I drew this card, which is Celebrate You. And I want you to notice that the number right there is the number 6. And 6 in numerology happens to be this Venusian energy, happens to be this Libra-like energy. So I think it's interesting how I got the card to Celebrate You, and Libra is the sign of partnerships and relationships. And I really think that this is pertinent because in order to celebrate a relationship, you do have to celebrate yourself. And this is about taking a stance of unconditional love for yourself. I saw a post earlier on Facebook today. Me and my fiance were looking, and this post was really on point because it was like one thing and then someone responding to it, and it was talking about, it did mention something about, toxic relationships and how, you can have an individual that may take advantage of another individual. But then there was this other response where it was talking about, you can be in a relationship and still be healing. I think there's this misconception to where people may potentially throw away these relationships that can grow into something because they themselves haven't healed completely. And life is a healing journey. So there's this interesting thing, and I even have fallen into this trap, and I'm still kind of clawing myself out of this trap the best way that I can. That in order to be in a relationship with somebody, especially those of us who are more spiritually inclined, or on this path, so to speak. Now, we all are on a spiritual path, but those of us who are taking active awareness in our spiritual path, there's this weird misconception that we have to be healed and we have to really, really know ourselves before we get into this relationship. And honestly, that's just going to set you up for disappointment. You're always going to be healing. We are allowed to be in relationships and not be completely healed. Now, I know that sounds maybe counterintuitive because, yeah, you can hurt the other person based off of the way that you're reacting to yourself, your own journey, your own karma. But to shut yourself off completely from experiencing these connections with other people, especially when it comes to romance, just because you feel like you haven't healed all the way, is selling yourself short. Because what you're going to discover on this journey is that the healing never really stops. It's not some sort of magical moment where you're just suddenly healed and everything is gravy and you're never going to experience challenges or problems again. That doesn't exist. That whole idea, that whole ideology, that whole dogma, that whole religion of thinking that way, because it is a sort of religious thought form that has taken over a lot of people I've seen in this spiritual community. It has taken over me, where I have questioned my relationship because I'm like, I have to heal. I have to figure myself out. You hear that all the time. It's not you, it's me. I just got to figure myself out. And that's okay. Sometimes relationships do come to an end. Everything has a season. Some last for one season. Some last for the whole year. And I'm using this as a metaphor, right? Some last a lifetime. But at the same time, I do feel like some people sometimes, a lot of the time, will sell themselves short in these relationships and these connections because they have to heal. They have to heal themselves. And what's interesting even about that word, when I think of the word heal, I'm thinking about the whole, at least I know you see it in wrestling, you may see it in other things, but you have these two things called the face and the heel. The face is considered to be the more positive, the good guys, and then the heel, which is spelled H-E-E-L instead of H-E-A-L, are like the bad guys, whatever like that, right? I think a lot of times what happens when we are healing too is that we sometimes make an enemy of ourselves, or we make an enemy of other people while we're healing. We think that they're the bad guys, or we think that we ourselves are the bad guy. But then we don't look at the face of things. We don't go to that side. And what's interesting about this card I noticed is that you see how they're all wearing masks, but then the person in the middle, who I'm assuming it's her birthday, she took her mask off and she's revealing herself to the world. She is celebrating herself. She doesn't have a mask on. She is revealing her face to the world. With this new moon in Libra opposing this Chiron energy, we are being called to take off our masks. That way we can connect to the right individuals, we can connect to the right people, And more importantly, we can connect that to ourselves. Because Libra is not just about other people. It's not just about relationships. It's about the relationship that we have with ourselves, the relationship that we have with Source, the way that we connect to Source. It's very powerful. And what I even love about, and I'll just draw it out real fast, what I love about the Libra glyph is that it does look like a bridge. It looks like a bridge. To me, it looks like a bridge anyways. The Libra glyph. It's almost like, this is, this right here is like the bridge itself, I'm just going to kind of like draw even a little bit more on it. Like this right here is the bridge itself, the bottom part. And then the other part is sort of like the railing that you see alongside the bridge, right? It's a bridge. Libra is in many ways this bridge to the upper half of the zodiac. And you have to cross this bridge before you reach Scorpio, which is about these deeper connections and intimacy. Scorpio does rule intimacy. And, it's these deeper energies. I don't really know how else to describe it besides that, when you meet someone, you don't, at least usually, go right to sex with Scorpio, right? Like, you don't just meet someone and you be like, hey, let's have sex. Like, and in today's culture, we kind of are doing that. I've noticed that. And it's like, sex is sacred, and I'm all for the sexual revolution, whatever like that. But there does need to be a sort of sacredness that needs to be brought back to the Scorpio energy and to our world. And people are just sort of skipping over this Libra energy. They're skipping over this this connection of like, having a good conversation with someone. They're skipping over this energy and going right to Scorpio. And a lot of times what happens is that while it may be fun in the moment and it may be exciting as well, you get this very much so hot and cold sort of energy with Scorpio. It's either like you're all in, and it's that Mars-like quality, that passion, that fire, let's go. A little bit more of the animalistic side, but then you get that Pluto way, 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 way out there. They even try to make Pluto not a planet. Although I don't know if Pluto really fucking cares about labels and shit, because Pluto's all about destroying labels, but also creating something new. But it's way out there. It's cold. It's way, way out there. So you get this hot and cold sort of energy. So when you skip over this Libra-like energy when it comes to connecting with people, and you try to go right for that Scorpio energy, you kind of damn yourself, because then there is this potential for you to miss out on these meaningful conversations with other people, whether it comes to, especially romantically when it comes to sex, especially when it comes to like romance and people that you want to potentially be with, but also, friends and family, stuff like that. Cutting right to the chase, cutting right to it. People forget about that initial interaction with people. Libra also rules the arts and beauty, right? It rules, crafts and all this sort of stuff too. It's not just relationships, but it rules all this sort of stuff. And with Venus being here in Libra and Mercury being here in Libra at the same time as this new moon, there's going to be this revival and this, this exploration of what it is that makes us feel beautiful. And also us looking at our surroundings and making sure that we surround ourselves with things that remind us of the beauty of life, the quality of life, how amazing and harmonious things can be when we create this sort of sanctuary for ourselves. You got to think about this. Virgo, which in many ways, while Virgo does rule the Hermit in tarot, Virgo is definitely about keeping things particular and in a certain order. Mars is still here, right? But there's a reason why Mars is still here. It's because there are still certain actions that we have to take in our daily life and morphing our environment to match our vibration so that we can feel better about ourselves, our journeys, where we're moving. And we have to remind ourselves with this Libra-like energy, right? That when it comes to, especially to that Mercurial energy, about the words that we say, affirmations. In many ways, you could say that Libra rules affirmations because, when you're affirming something, you do have to still take action upon it. And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up, because like if you're verbally saying something or writing something out, you are taking that air-like quality, and you're actually applying an action to it so it can manifest. It's not enough just to say, I'm going to manifest a Corvette and not do anything about it. That's where people get tripped up, because they forget that the other side of the coin of Libra is Aries, and it's about taking action. So, and then of course there's that squaring energy, too, with Capricorn and Cancer, where the nodes are. Capricorn is about having this discipline. It's about having the integrity of our word. That's what happens when we go from Libra to Capricorn. It's about establishing the integrity of our word. So by the time that we reach Capricorn season and we get the new moon there, that is when we start to see things really start to manifest and grow, and we start to build. And then of course, before you get Cancer, the Cancer energy, before you hit Libra, you have to feel good about it. You have to feel comfortable about it. You have to, there's a sort of emotional confidence that Cancer can carry when it's in its highest form. This emotional confidence is like, you know what, I do feel like I'm worthy of that manifestation. So by the time Libra comes, we can actually affirm it and start to work towards it. But we have to remember that Aries energy. We have to remember that opposing energy to actually take action, and to, Libra can be hesitant. Libras they usually are considered, or they're like kind of painted as being indecisive, right? But this is a new moon that's not very indecisive, right? Because we do have, like I said, Venus here. Last time we got this new moon, Venus was retrograde in Scorpio at 10 degrees. But now we have Venus and we have Mercury in Libra. So this is a very pure new moon of establishing and celebrating new connections with ourselves and with the world around us. It's honestly, it's a pretty, I don't want to say it's a simple energy, but it is a rather straightforward energy. How's that right there, right? Some essential Bogle red wine. I'm going to draw another card or two just to kind of get more into this and stuff. So, and then I'm gonna show you guys the charts too, to kind of give you guys a little bit more of what's going on here. We also have to consider that as the moon comes off of this new moon, we'll still very much so be in the new moon phase. It is going to square over to Saturn and square over to the nodes. So we're going to get, in many ways, that first challenge of like, yeah, we can feel good about celebrating these new connections. A lot of people probably gonna get into new relationships now. A lot of people are gonna probably get into new relationships, be it romantic, be it partnerships, be it like business partnerships or colleagues. Some of you may even establish connections with people that you haven't talked to in a while. Don't be surprised if an old friend hits you up randomly out of the blue. Don't be surprised if someone that you may have previously had beef with, that you guys actually can work things out potentially. And I think a lot of times that's what happens too, is because when we skip over the Libra energy and we go straight to Scorpio, it's not just sex, but it can also be about setting up these boundaries and setting up these ice walls that comes with Scorpio, and not really allowing ourselves to feel into the energy of Libra, which is about compromise and seeking harmony. Sometimes people don't want to seek harmony, and they don't allow themselves to heal particular karmic paths that they have with certain people and soul ties. And what they don't realize is that those knots become tighter and tighter and tighter. If you want like a good video to watch when it comes to dealing with other people in relationships, check out Dolo the Pilot Man and his video on soul ties. That's probably one of the best videos I have seen in a while, because it's just he goes in. And if you're watching this, you probably have heard of Dolo the Pilot Man. But that's an aspect too, where it's like sometimes people are just like, nah, I don't even want to deal with that individual. They hurt me so bad, I don't want to deal with it. And that could have been 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. You don't have to have them in your daily life. You don't have to do that, but you have to understand that if you die with that energy, you're going to carry it with you into the next life. But you still have to resolve that energy. You still have to resolve that karma. I think a lot of times that's what happens. People forget about the Libra energy. Sometimes they just skip right over it. And I get the allure. Scorpio is a very magnetic energy. I get the allure of it. But we still go through this energy every single year. And we have to learn that while we are celebrating ourselves and celebrating you, it's not always all about us. There are other people here. We are interacting with other people here. We're interacting with other blood cells here, other blood cells. Cells as in CELL. I guess you could say F or PH, one of those two. There are different ways to spell self, by the way, if you didn't know. Anyways, let's get a card out. We have the card of Emerald. And I think this is actually, when I think of emerald, I do think of these sort of earthy tones, but then you think of emerald, this is in many ways this sort of Venusian-like energy. Calm your mind, body, and soul. That's really interesting because the mind, the planet of the mind, Mercury is in Libra. The soul, which is the moon, that's in Libra. And then the body, you know, I don't know if there's really a particular planet that rules the body. I would say, if anything, it would be this Taurus-like energy, which Venus happens to rule, although I believe that the actual ruler of Taurus is the Earth. But that being said, Emerald, calm your mind, body, and soul. Calm your mind, body, and soul. This will be a great day. Take some time to meditate, to relax, to chill. And you know what's interesting about this too is that I think a lot of times what happens, you see this, how this water droplet, you know, it went to the water and now it's coming up and it's sort of separating. I think a lot of times we can feel like we are separated, that we are alone. But this water droplet will fall back into the water and become one again with all this. I think the other thing that another way to interpret this card is that sometimes we may be reaching for something. We may be reaching for that water droplet that went way up there. We may be reaching and reaching and reaching, and we can strain ourselves and pull a muscle by trying to reach up to this water droplet. But guess what? It's going to come back down and become one with the water again. A lot of times when it comes to this manifestation and stuff like that, yes, that's the other aspect, is that you don't, when it comes to affirmations and wanting to manifest these intentions, you do want to take action, but you don't want to overstrain yourself to where you pull a muscle, because if you truly believe, it will come back down and become one with that water again. So you don't have to strain your mind. You don't have to strain your body. You don't have to strain your soul, reaching for these goals, reaching for these things that you want to manifest, because it will come back down. It will come back down. It will become one with you again. Let's look at the charts, guys. Let's look at the charts. Let's see. All right, guys. So here we have the new moon. It's going to be occurring around 2:26 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. We have the moon and sun here at 5 degrees of Libra. And as you can see, it is going to be opposing this Chiron here at 3 degrees. And at least according to this chart, just based off where I'm at in the world, it puts it in the 9th house. So this is really about believing that we can establish and celebrate these new connections with ourselves and to the world around us. But I want to also point you to a couple other things. This new moon at 5 degrees is going to be opposing, or not opposing, excuse me, but quincunxing Uranus over here at 5 degrees. And what's interesting about this is that, you know, the moon likes to be in Taurus, and Uranus, you know, being an air planet, will probably prefer to be in Libra over Uranus. So we do have a bit of mutual reception here with this energy. Uranus, which is does deal with people, it does deal with the masses, but it does deal with your inner genius. moving backwards in Taurus, or seemingly from our perception, which does deal with self-worth and self-value. And then we have this new moon. So there's this energy where potentially, when it comes to establishing these new connections, these new relationships with ourselves, we can perhaps sort of, look at our value system and not really see the genius in who we are and the genius in what we have in our life. Because in many ways, Taurus does rule material possessions. And I like to think in many ways that Taurus can rule gratitude as well. I mean, I think all signs express gratitude, but I think Taurus in its highest vibration can rule this gratitude that we have. This new moon is asking us to be grateful for our connections and to be grateful for all that we have in our life, but it can be difficult. Why? Because these are at 5 degrees. 5 is this Gemini mercurial like energy, and sometimes our mind can get in the way of things. You want to know what's also cool? Look at this. We have another 5. We have 2 + 3 equals 5. So Mercury is actually at its pure degree, 23 degrees. 2 + 3 is 5. So the mind can potentially get in the way. But that being said, we can actually, we don't want to make an enemy of the mind. We don't want to make an enemy of the mind. But instead, what we want to do is to realize that the mind is one of our greatest tools. And you can use the mind to manifest and bring things into your life. However, if you get too caught up on a lot of the things that are being said, a lot of things that you hear, we have a lot of thoughts, guys, and it's hard to manage all of those thoughts. It's hard to monitor all of those thoughts. And you also have to remember that all the thoughts that you have, they're not all yours. They're not all yours. You are intercepting thoughts. Here's another 5. Black Moon Lilith is at 23 degrees of Pisces. 2 + 3 is 5. It's another one. And there's a quincunx. Once again, so we have the quincunx of the moon over to Uranus, which they're all at 5 degrees. And then we have the quincunx of Mercury in Libra over to Pisces. Those are at 23 degrees. So in many ways, it's like, if you think of like the lower degrees, this is dealing more with the self. But then the higher degrees, you're kind of dealing more with the unseen realms. So our mind right now is sort of dealing with this challenging aspect when it comes to, we want to move things forward and stuff like that. We want to connect, but I don't know, man. Like, it's like I'm a little worried. There's some fear there. There's some worry there about, especially when it comes to this Piscean energy, this whole spiritual quality. It's like, I don't know. How do I know this is going to work out? Because ultimately, I don't know. And that's true. But there's this belief energy. You got to remember that Pisces also does rule belief. Pisces also rules belief. Another thing I want to point you all to, real quick, is the sextile of this new moon over to the minor asteroid Amor. Now, I know a lot of you guys might have not heard of this asteroid Amor, but let's just click on it. It's in Leo. The conditions one places on unconditional love, the understanding of what love is / means. What interferes or blocks the love and acceptance of self and others. Acceptance in many ways is a Libra-like quality. Acceptance, receiving. Figuring out whether you can or should remain loving, whatever that means to you. Can you, should you set boundaries or limits on what happens in the name of love? Conditions on whatever occurs in aspect. This is pretty big, actually, with the sextile. And sextiles bring opportunities. So I believe that this new moon, a lot of people, and I'm going to be speaking mainly from like, if you're potentially thinking about getting into a romantic relationship, you have to ask yourself, what is unconditional love? And you have to ask yourself whether or not you're willing to open up to this potential new love. I think a lot of times what can happen is that we can be so focused on our hurt and our pain and our traumas, Chiron and Aries, and we can shut people out that are actually good for us, that will actually help us to grow, that actually help us to evolve, that actually are spiritually inclined, such as us, and are on a similar path as us. So I don't believe any two people are really on the same path, but we can, your paths can sort of meet and intermingle for certain periods of time. And Amor is in the sign of Leo, which Leo, in many ways, it does rule love. It does rule passion and creativity and romance. Some of y'all are about to get into a relationship, and you've been like, I don't know if I want to get into a relationship. You've been fighting it. You've been straining. You've been fighting. You don't want to get into a relationship. Damn, it's probably going to happen. It's probably going to freaking happen. And there's not really much you can do about it. Let's see. I also wanted to share with you all. Okay, so here we go. So this new moon in Libra that we're getting, in many ways over the past 6 months, we've been building up to this new moon. We've been sort of curating the plant, and now we're ready to plant new seeds. We had earlier this year, on March 20th, we had the full moon in Libra that occurred at 0 degrees. And you can see here, the sun was actually conjunct Chiron. Mars, which is now in Virgo, was over here in Taurus. So Mars was trining where it is right now. Jupiter hadn't retrograded yet. Saturn and Pluto hadn't retrograded yet. The only energy that was retrograde was Mercury. But now Mercury's moving forward. And look at where Mercury is in. It's at Pisces. That was an intense Mercury retrograde. But you know what's cool about this is that the ruler of Libra, Venus, was at 23 degrees of Aquarius, and it's actually trining where Mercury is right now. So there is harmony that can come in relationships. There is harmony that can come with our relationship that we see the outer world and to other people. It's absolutely possible, and it's great healing. I think sextiles bring opportunities. If I were to kind of give it like a simple blurb, that sextiles bring opportunities, trines bring healing. So, and it's not just you see, of course, you have the sextile and all this. You have a lot of fives here too. 2 + 3 is 5. 2 + 3 is 5. 2 + 3 is 5. But aspects don't just happen like this, where they happen in the moment. You can have aspects where a planet can make an aspect to where another planet will be in the future. But if they're happening at key moments, such as a new moon or a full moon, they become that much more powerful. So I want you guys to remember that. It's not just, oh, today, for example, let's just say like randomly, oh, today Jupiter is opposing Mars or whatever like that, But there can be an aspect to where, Jupiter can square Mars when Mars is at that particular degree. But these all can be occurring on a new moon or a full moon. So they are powerful moments, or they can occur like on an eclipse or something like that. So there are ways where planets can actually make aspects to where planets will be in the future, but they will occur at very key moments, such as this. Venus at 23 degrees Aquarius. Mercury at 23 degrees of Libra. So during that full moon that we had in Libra, Aquarius, the Venus in Aquarius is actually making a trine over to this mercurial-like energy. And that's very important because it's actually speaking to this aspect of, we actually have the ability to heal. And it's almost sort of like this almost like premonition, looking into the future sort of aspect too. So let's do that. We'll come back on here. And yeah, like I said, I feel like this new moon is rather straightforward, especially with Venus being here as well, to where we are being given this opportunity to really see and experience and feel the beauty of our relationships, especially the ones that we have with ourselves. And therefore, we will see the beauty and feel the beauty of the relationships that we have with other people. So I'm going to draw a few more cards here, actually. And then we're going to get out of here. I'm going to draw a couple of tarot cards for everyone. This is just going to be like a general reading. So, all right. Moon and Libra at 5 degrees. Before I actually get to this, I'm actually going to go ahead and draw my cards, though. But before we get to this, now the first card here is going to represent kind of where we are. This middle card is going to represent the sort of bridge, and this other card is going to represent to where like we're kind of going. But I want to read real fast from this amazing source, Inside the Degrees by Elias Lanza. I'm going to read 5 degrees of Libra real fast. Okay. Okay. Libra, 5 degrees. A man raising a crop of marijuana. I kid you not, that's what it says in here. Let's see, hold on. Yeah, you see that? Libra, 5 degrees. A man raising a crop of marijuana. Lively, energetic, spilling out over the edges, consciousness and sensibility. Exuberant with the play of existence. Magnetized completely to enjoy and express and explore the personal, the interpersonal, and the sensuous vibrations. Wanting to find out what is real here, what is truly alive, what is worth moving forward with. Experimental, loose, and carefree, you are extraordinarily uninhibited. Most gifted in loving, appreciating, and delighting in how each one is and how we all are. The connoisseur of chaos and the master of casual interspaces, for better and for worse. That is very much so describing what this new moon is. It's like it's calling us to be free with ourselves. It's not calling us to be sort of like, not that you want to just drop all of your boundaries, but you have to understand that boundaries can become a cage at some point. When you set unhealthy boundaries, they can become a cage. This is asking us to be free, to be open, to be light, to appreciate and delight in how everyone is, to be uninhibited, to be carefree. And yes, there can be a bit of chaos that comes with that, but there can also be a lot of harmony and peace that comes with that as well. So the first card that we actually have here, we have the Page of Coins in reverse. The middle card, the bridge energy. We actually have the card of Judgment in reverse. And then the final card, these are all reversed, so that means that they can actually in many ways be upright. We have the Three of Coins. So because they're all reversed, you can read them as being upright in many ways. So the first card we have, this is really actually key for this. We have the Page of Coins. The Page of Coins. This is, when I think of the pages, I do think of initiates and I think of students. And since this is coins, this is dealing with this sort of earthy-like energy. And Venus, like I said, does co-rule Taurus, although I believe it's really the Earth that rules Taurus. But the Page of Coins is really talking about taking this initial step towards feeling better about our physical reality when it comes to like our physical health and how that can affect the mental, emotional, and spiritual health, but also surrounding ourselves with beautiful things. This can be dealing with projects, of course, too, but this is talking about this sort of actual physical like manifestation in the 3D and how we're now are becoming students of our craft. We do have the card of Judgment, though, here as the bridge. And I believe that this Judgment card here, it's not really so much that we are being judged by some sort of seemingly externalized higher being. This is about how we judge ourselves, beloved. And you know, when I think of judges and stuff like that, I do think of the sort of Libra-like energy because I'm making a judgment call on something. And this judgment-like energy is like sometimes we can, when it comes to self-judgment, sometimes we can hold ourselves back from allowing the experience of new realities, of new connections, of new relationships. Or if you are in a relationship, I'm mainly speaking romantically in this particular example, to experience newness within that relationship. But then we take these judgments based off of everything that's happened in the past and are our evidence that we have to that point. We make a judgment call. But new evidence comes in every day. We just have to be open to it. But then we got the Three of Pentacles as far as where we're going. So it's like there needs to be this sort of belief in ourselves, and to not be too hard on ourselves too. So because sometimes judgment can be harsh. To not be too hard on ourselves, because we are actually going to start creating beautiful things, and we're going to start connecting with other people. You see there's three people here. So it's like the Three of Pentacles, it's sort of like, say, take for example, like an individual that has like a dream or goal. The Three of Pentacles is like when they first like accomplish it. So say, you know, someone had a dream of writing a book, and they published their first book. They accomplished their dream, but do they want to keep going? It's not just, is it just enough for that individual just to write that one book and then they go on to the next thing? Or maybe they want to be an actual author. Maybe it's not just to write a book, but it's to be an author, to write multiple books. So to move on to the next step. So it's like, all right, I made it to this point. It's sort of like a celebration, but you see they're still scheming. They're still trying to figure out, all right, what's the next step? What can we do? How can we make this better? How can we bring this to the next level? So it's like, in many ways, you see how he's holding the one coin and then it moves to three. It's like we have an idea of what we want to manifest. We have an idea of what we want to manifest. And we have to make the right judgment calls. And this bridge right here, this Libra-like energy, this bridge is that now we're having to make the right judgment calls on how to move forward with this project. But there is this great potential of not only succeeding, but connecting with other individuals that can be like, hey, did you consider this? Hey, did you consider that? You know, people are going to start offering their 2 cents, and you still want to remain true to who you are, but don't just shut out the counsel and the potential help and assistance and guidance from other people, because we can't do it by ourselves. We can't do it all alone. I don't care how strong and independent you are, or I don't care like if you're the strongest and most independent person in the world, you still need people. And Libra teaches that. You still need people. You still need people. You still need people, because no matter how much you acknowledge yourself and stuff like that, it's important that you acknowledge yourself. But when it comes to, I guess, success within this 3D sphere, you know, there is sort of like this need for the acknowledgement from other people, and not to the point where you kind of get like a big head or a big ego, but the sort of appreciation. Like this wouldn't be like I would still be making videos, but I tell you guys that like I get excited when people, you know, they talk about how they enjoy what I'm doing, and it gives me courage and bravery. It gives me more passion and fuel to keep going. Or when I see someone like read something that I wrote and be like, wow, this is really inspiring. And it's like, it gives me that much more to want to keep going. And I would keep going anyways, but it does help. So it's like, allow yourself to receive compliments. Allow yourself to receive this celebration of your craft and what you are doing and how you're moving forward. Allow yourself to receive this, you know? And yeah, I mean, don't let it just totally go to your head and get absolutely caught up in, you know, the lower vibrational qualities of the ego. But to take that action and be like, you know what, I can do something else with this. I can move forward. I can expand upon this. I can evolve. You know, another good example of this energy is like, you know, recently in the Pokemon anime, Ash finally won the Pokemon League, which is awesome. I've been meaning to make a video on his birth chart because I actually have his birth chart. But Ash finally won the Pokemon League, and then people were suddenly thinking like, oh, is he going to be out the anime anymore? Is he a Pokemon master now and stuff like that? But it actually has been recently confirmed that he's going to show up again because, yeah, he accomplished one of the goals as far as winning a Pokemon League, but that doesn't mean that his journey is over. So he's going to keep moving forward. He's going to keep going for it. He's going to build and expand upon it. So that's another thing. It's like, yeah, you can get this recognition. He won the Pokemon League, whatever like that. You can be winning the Pokemon League in your life right now, metaphorically. But are you going to stop right there? There's always more to do. There's always more to explore. And there's always going to be another challenger that can usurp you, potentially. And it's okay. It's okay to appreciate the victories and appreciate the defeats, all aspects of it. We have to be willing and allow ourselves to open up to celebrating these new connections with ourselves, with other people, the world around us, the world of spirit. Yeah. I think that just about does it for this video. Hey, Sig, thanks for joining. This is going to be a very powerful new moon in Libra. Like I said, it's going to be a rather pure one because as the moon comes off of it, it's going to make that conjunction to Venus and Mercury. So it's like, you know, our soul in many ways is going to catch up to that Venus consciousness, our ability to open up and receive, and then the mercurial aspect of our mind and stuff like that, and show these other aspects of ourselves the possibilities of what happens when we appreciate and establish these new connections and these new relationships. And the many beautiful places that we can sail together. Relationship, it's a ship, you know? You can't just, a ship is useless in the harbor. It's useless just sitting at the dock. You have to actually go out into the ocean. And yeah, there could be storms, there could be hurricanes, typhoons, and monsoons. There will be. But the purpose of a ship is to sail on the blue sea. It's useless if it just sits in the harbor. And in many ways, you kind of want to look at this as you want to look at this new moon as that. It's like when you go on these relationships, whatever like that, it's useless to just sit in the harbor. You have to actually go out. And yeah, you can project fear and doubt and anxiety into it and be like, I don't know, what if it doesn't work out because of what happened in the past and what happened when I was on that particular boat, you know? But then you're just going to find yourself just sitting at the docks watching the ocean, and you're going to be missing out on what could potentially be. And then resentment can build up because why can't I have that? It's because you believe that you have to heal yourself completely before you jump into another relationship or you jump onto that boat. That's a misconception. That's a huge misconception. This is a healing journey, life. And you don't have to be 100% healed before you take the next step. It's okay. Let's move forward. You got this, I promise. Anyways, I love you all so much. I hope that this video helped you all and you utilize this new moon to the best of your ability. And hope that you all have a lovely and beautiful weekend. And I will definitely be seeing you all soon on the next video. And as always, my beautiful brothers and sisters, always remember to keep moving forward, to stay focused, and Yahoo! Smile often. Ah.